You're not bad at job searching. You're scared. Now, you're not scared of rejection. You're used to that. But it's easier for you to apply for jobs, play it safe, under the radar for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, in a comfortable way to actually be assessed whether or not you're right for a role. That's easier for you than having a 5 minute uncomfortable conversation with a decision maker because it highlights whether or not you're right for the role. In this video, I'm going to break down how to actually start eliminating fear in your job search and getting to the source, getting to decision makers who are actually going to action results for you. Look, fear disguises itself as being productive. You're applying for jobs, you know you've got your quota. You might have even managed your time to think, I'm going to make 5 applications per day. You make 3 easy applies, you make 2 traditional applications on the website. That might have taken you a couple of hours and you're done. You're done for the day. You have been productive, you've put in your work. Whether or not that works, it's beside the point. You know you've done what you need to do because that's what everybody tells you to do, right? You apply and you wait, and then the auto rejections come in. Then unfortunately, you haven't been successful. There was just somebody a little bit better than you. And then you try to make sense out of it. And you know you're putting in the time, you're putting in the hard work, it's not connecting, so you blame the market. And tomorrow you do the same thing again. Now, it's very easy to fall into this loop of feeling productive, but actually getting something out of it is an entirely different conversation altogether. Now, here's a little hack: reframe it. Rather than just spending 3, 4, 5 hours doing this and expecting a different result and getting the same one, why don't you try to reach out to the people who may look like decision makers? I mean, you've got tons of people to reach out to. You can reach out to somebody doing the job in the company you want to work in. You've seen the job role, apply to the job, but then automatically send the head of HR an ad note on LinkedIn and try to get a connection. The moment they accept, ask a question. Ask a question that shows that you're an intelligent job seeker. Don't say something like, hey, any jobs? Or I've just applied. That doesn't work. You know it doesn't work. So that's why you're not sending it. But why not ask a question about, hey, would love to know what the projects are that are coming up at the end of the year? You know, what does Q2 look like in comparison to Q3 if all the targets are met? You want to act as if you're in that role by asking intelligent questions that fit you into that role. The longer you avoid discomfort, the more expensive it gets. Think about how much of a salary you're missing out on. If you're unemployed looking for the role that you want to do, every month you're not in that role costs you the salary of that role. I did a previous video where I broke down a 50K salary in the UK. That's roughly £3,300 per month after tax. If you're applying for 6 months and you're avoiding the discomfort of doing more and just doing the same thing that doesn't work, that 6 months has cost you £18,000 in lost earnings. Now, on top of that, if you're unemployed, the hours you spend per week is actually another cost on top of that. So if you're spending 10 hours a week and your hourly rate is £25 per hour, you've spent an additional £250 doing something that is not working. You're avoiding discomfort, but it's actually becoming extremely expensive. So if you figured out a way that would spend less time in your outreach, let's say you spend half an hour a day reaching out to people and actually aim to have conversations rather than random applications, you can then start to convert how that is doing much better for you than traditional applications. So you've done traditional applications, let's say for a month, and you know that that has generated one screening call. The input and the output just doesn't make sense. But let's assume you reach out to 10 people a day, and that takes you 20 minutes a day, and you have 5 conversations in a week. Compare that to one screening call of traditional applications. The input and output is much better for you. Your ROI on time invested is net positive. Whether or not those conversations lead to anywhere, that's entirely dependent on you. But you're not avoiding the discomfort of having that conversation. That conversation is actually showing you a different pathway. And then you start to break down the numbers. And then if you can look at creating 5 conversations a week from little time in comparison to just traditional applications, you then tend to save a lot more money. You don't lack skill, you lack exposure. Now, you might have a really good resume with all the experience required, and you're applying for jobs and you're treated as if you have no experience. You're treated like these companies don't even want to speak to you. And for people without experience, they don't understand that you are going through the same thing they are. You have a perfect resume, you have everything a company would want. But the problem is not that you don't have the skills or lack of, because there are people without experience getting jobs. How do they do it? Well, the issue is market saturation. You don't have exposure in a crowded marketplace. You need to speak to people so they know you exist. If people know you exist and then you make an application, or when you make an application and then they know you exist, you have a higher chance of being shortlisted. So it's not skill, it's exposure. Now, your confidence will come from action, not before it. You can't magically get confidence before your job search. You need to get out there. You need to get out in the trenches. You need to make a few applications, attempt to speak to a few people, throw a couple of emails here and there somewhere, get rejected by a hiring manager, be completely ghosted by the head of HR, be completely, ignored by the HR business partner. These are normal things, but your confidence comes from this because it takes one good message. You might get that one instant gratification where the HR business partner or the global head of HR says, "You've got a good profile. Let me recommend you to the hiring manager." Then you get a meeting with the hiring manager. Hiring manager then looks at your profile, asks you questions where you feel that you're actually, for the first time, being assessed if you're the right fit. Then you get an interview. That interview then turns into an offer stage. Then you accept the right salary for your dream job. That confidence to lead you to there comes after action, not before it. What I want you to think about is, if you can handle 10 uncomfortable conversations, if you can really get out there, you will beat 90% of job seekers that are just applying. Because you see, your competition, they're lazy. They're applying, they're spending hours doing the easiest thing possible, not getting any results, and doing the same thing again. You have an advantage because you can do more. If you are prepared to be a little bit uncomfortable in the short term, the long term is you're in your dream job and you're working for your dream company. I'll see you on the next video.